I would like you to use the metaphor of a card game then, Professor, seeing that Donald Trump referenced it. Who would you say is holding the winning hand right now? Because we all feel fragile, we all feel vulnerable. There is so much uncertainty in the world, and as Zvinka just pointed out, we would never have thought that drones fighting drones could be real, would be part of warfare, which it is. So, take a guess.
Yeah. I'm worried that the Trump administration, in particular Trump and JD Vance, that they've been persuaded by Putin that he has the cards. But if you look at it, I mean, Putin clearly is a good poker player in the military sense and the political sense of it. I mean, this war has been going on for 3 years. Putin has said it will happen, within 24 hours or 3 days or a week, and so on. Now, if you're a card player, you would say, well, actually, do you have the cards? Yeah, do you have the strong cards? This war's going on for 3 years, and Ukraine is still fighting. And even after this meeting between Trump and Zelensky, what's going to happen is many other friends of Ukraine is now going to give resources to Ukraine. So even if the US pulls back to fill the gap, so this is actually, in a way, it's actually been good for Ukraine. It's not going to be bad for Ukraine. Because every other country will now have to respond. Those who are neutral have to say, well, actually, where do we stand now? And every country will have to make a decision. And then on the other hand, I think Trump thinks he has the cards because he's a new player, and he can drive the process, and only he can persuade Putin to come to the negotiation table. So I don't think it's as easy as Trump would have said that the Ukraine doesn't have the card. They don't have the winning cards. I don't think it's as simple as that. The thing about is, now we're talking about cards. I mean, from a Putin point of view, the longer the war and the longer Ukraine is holding out, Russia's prestige also declines, because the world has by now expected that Russia would roll over
Would have dealt with, yes.
and so on. Yeah. So from a card's point of view, if you're a card player, how strong is your hand? I mean, you've gone on for 3 years, and you had initially promised that that is going to happen overnight.
Zvinka, I don't in any way want to imply that war is some card game, because we've seen the deaths and the sacrifices Ukrainians have made and what's happened the last 3 years. But if you look at strategically and diplomatically at what has been unfolding, particularly then after Friday, who's holding the upper hand at the moment? Or is Russia, have they been the puppet master the whole time, playing their cards against their chest and waiting for someone else, USA and others, to show their hand?
I think, firstly, obviously, it's clear that no one can win without Ukraine. And in that sense, you can say that Ukraine is a key to global security system. But I think also China is driving in a winning seat, because while America might be in a situation when they're starting losing their friends, China can offer an opportunity to be a new friend. And the same for the countries that used to be maybe more aligned with Russia. As Russia gets weaker, China has more and more impact on Russia. And as we can read from the strategy of Donald Trump administration, his idea is to pull Russia away from China, because currently China has too much influence on Russia. So by supporting Russia, Trump hopes to create this counter weight for China. But clearly, under current circumstances, China looks like it can be a winner in this big shoulder guys game.
That's the one country that you did not touch on when we were talking about BRICS, when we were saying what Brazil's response have been, and India. And I was going to remind you, because they seem to have been the silent partner here. They don't feature, but we know they have a lot to gain.
No, absolutely. I think China most probably has the most to gain of all of the countries. I mean, it's, they've been strategically quiet. And I think, the more the Trump administration overstretch America and alienates America's traditional allies, China is going to offer an alternative, not only to developing countries, but also to developed countries. So I think, out of the Trump administration, China may actually ultimately be the biggest winner out of its war. I just wanted to come back on the cards. I don't want to overplay the card games and so on. I mean, the fact that Putin wants to use the peace process to gain territory that Russia could not get through the military. I mean, it must tell you something, that his hand is not so strong. Otherwise, he had promised at the beginning that he will take, and Russia will take the territory and overrun Ukraine. Now he is actually forced strategically to try to seek Ukrainian territory and occupation through a peace process. With Donald Trump, and also the fact that Russia is offering critical minerals, in Russia and in their envisaged occupied Ukraine, to Putin as a sweetener to try to get him to the deal. I mean, that tells you his hand is not that strong then, from a military point of view, if he wants to use a peace process to gain the territory of Ukraine, and if he's even prepared to give Russia's critical minerals, strategic minerals, and also Ukraine's strategic minerals to, that Putin wants to give it in deals to the US in order to get a peace on his terms, which says that his hand is not as strong as he would say in public.
Would Ukraine be open to China if there were advances, Vinka?
I think in this few years of full-scale invasion, Ukrainians clearly showed that they don't want to bend to anyone. They want to decide for themselves on the future of their country. So, it doesn't mean that Ukraine would not be open for trade and cooperation. Obviously, it would be, but would be controlled by any other country.
Would you say, given the utterances of Donald Trump, how and should President Zelensky try and find his way back to the White House? Or should he rather focus on the help that all the allies have now offered?
I don't know if it's a question for Prof. Gumede, but I do think
I'd like to hear what you say, and then Professor Gumede can respond to that.
I think that definitely United States and Ukraine have a long history of cooperation, and there is a lot of support from people in America. So I do think that the two parties would find the way how to continue collaborating in a more balanced and beneficial to both parties way.
Professor
So I
Gumede?
think the way out now for President Zelensky really is, I think, a three-pronged process, aligned with allies and new allies, and through them engage the US. So you kind of like one front. The second front is to continue to engage with the Trump administration directly, and then for me the third one would be to directly appeal to the American people. Or almost building a front inside the US that could put pressure on a Trump administration. So continued engagement with the Trump administration. Secondly, build a front outside with new allies, with Europe, so on, Japan, and then also with developing countries outside. Continue with developing countries, with Africa, other developing countries, Brazil, India, and so on. And the last one, a direct appeal, continuous direct appeal to the American people, to almost build to build support from within America, from ordinary citizens.